Welcome back everyone, Keyline Pie here. Svarog and his little arms have been kidnapping far too many players in the simulated universe World 4, so I wanted to make this video showcasing how to use a freeze cheese under the Path of Remembrance, even utilizing the free 4-star characters at primarily level 40 to achieve victory. Although I use these starter characters for my showcases for World 3 through 5, you absolutely don't have to use these characters. There's a lot of different alternatives you can use, but you do want to follow the standard rule of a team composition of typically a healer or shielder, as well as a tank. And if you don't want to use a tank, you can use a shielder, which is why we have March 7th and Natasha, 1 DPS or 2 DPSs. If you're going to use a 2 DPS composition, I would recommend 1 single target, 1 AoE DPS. Otherwise, you can use a supporter and 1 DPS. And that supporter here in this composition is Asta. I want to take a brief moment going over the main blessings you should be on the lookout for to achieve a freeze cheese under the Path of Remembrance. So the main one you should be looking for is the Fully card. When attacking frozen enemies, there's a 100% base chance to inflict disassociation for 1 turn. What this ends up doing is when an enemy is unfrozen after they have this debuff on them, they'll take damage based on their max HP. If you end up finding this card pretty early on, you can end up going for this card here, Reticence, where after an enemy is attacked 6 times, they have a 120% base chance to become frozen for 1 turn. This is helpful if you bring no cryo characters on the team or a cryo character that doesn't hit very often or have a good freeze chance. Now, if you don't get this card early on and you're given these two as an option, I would recommend you choose this card here unless you have some solid damage. If you have good damage, then you can definitely pick this card to be able to keep in a freeze lock and just beat them down with your own power. Now, if you don't have good power, this card can be used where after an enemy is broken or their shield is broken, there's a 100% base chance to apply disassociation on the enemy for 1 turn. Now, bosses have pretty thick shields, so that's why this one isn't an absolute priority. It's much better to just hit a target that's frozen to be able to apply that debuff on them. Some other important cards you want to look for are the 2-star cards that deal with disassociation as well too, such as Dizziness, where increases the damage taken by enemies with disassociation by 36%, as well as the more important one of the card right over here called Melancholia, where attacking an enemy with disassociation will remove disassociation and deal damage equal to 150% of the disassociation removal damage. So what this allows you to do is apply disassociation, then remove it, then reapply it, then remove it, all while they're continually frozen to continually do maximum HP damage to them over and over again. Another card you may want to look out for is this one here. After the debuff is removed from an enemy, there's a 50% chance to freeze the enemy for 1 turn. Another thing you want to keep in mind is when you are nearing the boss room, you do want to keep some cosmic fragments so that you can level up some of these important cards. Now, you don't absolutely have to do them, but they can make your run a little bit more consistent if you do upgrade this one to freeze them every 5 turns, or you can speed up your run by picking up this one so that they take even more damage, or this one so that they take even more damage, or this one here so that they end up gaining a higher chance to get refrozen as well too. As for the ability tree, the more nodes you do have, the easier simulated universe runs are, but I will say the bare minimum you should maybe look to have is going to be the reset blessings node. When selecting a blessing of the simulated universe after defeating enemies, you can consume cosmic fragments, which is 30 cosmic fragments, to reset the blessings for 1 time only. This is exceptionally helpful when you have defeated an elite enemy and you get presented the choice of a 3-star blessing guaranteed, and you don't end up getting a Path of Remembrance blessing. Since the Path of Remembrance 3-star blessings are some of the most crucial blessings for your run, anything that deals with resetting blessings is going to be super helpful, including something such as a curio or an event that allows you to change out one of your blessings. Luckily, this blessing node or this ability node is fairly early on in the tree, so you won't have to do too many simulated universe runs to be able to obtain this. And keep in mind that you can do any of the simulated universe worlds to be able to get ability tree points. So if you want, you can always auto battle one of the lower runs to just get the full run done, or you can continue to do the world that you're stuck on over and over again, because even if you fail or decide to quit early, you still will get ability tree points. I want to take a moment to talk about the elite and boss monsters of World 4 and give some advice and tips for them. If you're unfamiliar with how elite monsters work in Simulated Universe, there is a collection of 4 different elite monsters you may encounter, and you're required to fight a minimum of 2 of them during your run that are randomly chosen from this pool. The first elite monster of Stormbringer charges a bow attack where they will deal heavy damage to anyone who has a wind debuff by the time Stormbringer's turn comes around once more. You can remove this wind debuff by simply taking an action or turn, and it will remove 1 stack of the wind debuff. The alternative way to be able to cleanse this is by using a skill such as March 7th or Natasha's skill. However, these 2 skills do require you to unlock a trace that applies a cleanse to their skill. Alternatively as well, Bronya does have a cleanse on her skill naturally, so if you do have her, that will absolutely come in handy to avoid damage from the Stormbringer arrow. If nobody does have a wind debuff by the time Stormbringer does take their turn, they do absolutely nothing. The next elite enemy is Frigid Prowler, or I like to call the Big Fat Ice Mecha. This boss or elite monster here does summon additional monsters, and these monsters are very tanky, but you are required to kill them. Otherwise, by the time Frigid Prowler's turn comes around again, he will absorb them and gain huge amount of buffs that will become very dangerous if you let them get out of control. The next elite monster is Automaton Grizzly. Similar to the Frigid Prowler, this one also spawns additional enemies. However, these additional enemies are not going to be consumed, except they do have a lot of chip damage. So if you don't take care of them and destroy them, they will make the Automaton Grizzly a lot harder to kill. The last one here, Decaying Shadow, in my opinion, is the easiest one, as the one charge-up move she does have, it causes her to have 9 stacks, and by the time her turn comes around again, she'll release all the stacks as individual hits onto your characters. The way you can remove these stacks is simply by hitting her, and each time she is hit by a character, she loses 1 stack, and if you can get all the way down to 1 stack, it won't hurt you very much. To begin this World 4 run, we choose the Path of Remembrance, which is the freeze build or the freeze cheese, to be able to freeze Svarog and deal damage based on max HP. Here we start off by selecting a curio, and we're going to choose the gold coin of Discord because the right cheese only heals us, which we don't really need heals, and the left curio gives us damage prevention for 1 hit, which is not that helpful either. During this run, I'll be cutting out a lot of the battles because I do auto battle every battle here, and I don't think you all need to see that. And on the first blessing selection, we have on the left side of Remembrance, so we pick that. The second one gives us nothing, so we try to reset, but all we get is a bunch of preservation. When you do get faced with this choice, if you are under leveled, I do recommend picking cards that will help your survivability or damage, but survivability usually comes first, unless you can take some extra turn counts or it's a significant damage card. In this next selection choice, we get nothing once again, so we hit that reset for 30 more fragments, nothing once more. And so we have a choice between Hunt, Destruction, and Elation, and so we end up picking Destruction because we want that increased max HP by 16%. In the next blessing selection screen, we have nothing once more, so we reset, and nothing again. So here we are deciding if we want some speed, or if we want energy, or some more attack. I decided to go for speed. I don't think it really mattered at this point, but my goal was to freeze them at the beginning, either with the Path Resonance skill, or with the blessing that freezes enemies at the beginning of the battle. Here we have nothing once more, so we hit that reset. And then we have Remembrance on the left. We get lucky, and we have Remembrance in the middle, so we pick that one and move on, which allows us to get the Path Resonance skill for the first time, which gives AoE freeze and some significant damage as well. I do recommend you break every destructible object, the HP pods, technique pods, and barrels, whenever you do find them, because there are some curios that do help you with the run if you have destroyed objects. Now we have Remembrance on the left and the right, and we end up choosing the right card because this one decreases the enemy's resistance to freeze, which allows things such as March 7th's ultimate to have a higher chance of hitting an enemy with a freeze. We were unlucky and hit the Big Fat Cryo Mecha Elite Monster. This monster is extremely tanky and summons additional monsters that you have to kill, and if you don't kill them, he will suck them up and get some damage buffs. Here, after the fight, we got lucky and we got a Remembrance card on left and right, and we ended up choosing the right one because we wanted the disassociation on breaking an enemy shield, as opposed to the left one, which would cause the enemy to be frozen after 6 hits. And because our team is a little underleveled and 4-star and a little on the weaker side, we decided to go for the more damaging option. And right there for the curios, I end up choosing the Robe of Beauty. It's not really going to help us because we're going to burn all of our Cosmic Fragments, but I chose that one because I didn't want to reroll my curios because we didn't really have many. At this point, we are just going to buy another equipment to try to look for a Fortune Glue or a Wax Seal of Remembrance. And with these choices, the left one upgrades 2 random blessings. The middle one will give a weakness for only 3 turns, and the right one will auto-complete the battle for us if we end up dying to a non-boss. So since none of those were that appealing to me, I ended up choosing the blessing one, and that was a pretty terrible RNG selection of upgrades. And here, for some reason, I shoot past the desk and hit the enemy, even though I tried to hit the barrel. We have a 2-star Remembrance in the middle. This one's actually the really good one, where it will remove Disassociation debuff and deal massive damage to an enemy. Here we end up choosing the Aeonian River upgrade to our Path Resonance skill because we do hit 6 Blessings of Remembrance. And now we have a Warp Trotter, so we're going to switch to March 7th to try to use our technique to try to freeze the Warp Trotter and the enemies so they can't run away. Be very careful when you do fight the Warp Trotter that has the rocks around it, because every time you hit anybody in the run, the Warp Trotter will shoot a Quake AoE at you, which can kill your characters, which was why you see there I nearly died. We get presented with Remembrance in the middle, so we select that one. And then we have one on the left, immediately select it. And go to the next battle. We're just going to pick the middle card, and then we're going to choose between combat and encounter. I recommend doing combat over encounter because encounters can sometimes be risky if you are on the lower power side, but if you think you have good blessings or your team is just strong, feel free to do encounter, but sometimes you can get the requirement that you have to finish the battle within 4 turns. Here we have the right Remembrance, and we picked that one, and then now we have 10 Remembrance cards, and from our ability tree node we get to pick another upgrade. And there we end up choosing the one that gives our increased chance to freeze the enemy. We get unlucky once again, and we end up next to the other fat tanky robot that summons 4 additional monsters. So this one takes us quite a while to finish at the 3-minute mark on auto battle. And here for our 3-star selection, we get no freeze cards, so we reroll, and then we actually get the really good one. This one is so good for damage paired with that 2-star card I was mentioning earlier. This allows us to debuff, remove the debuff, and deal lots of damage over and over again. We choose the Wax Seal of Remembrance just to get another freeze blessing. You don't necessarily need to do that, especially if you acquire this after your second elite monster battle, but extra blessings do help by constantly synergizing with each other, so I decided just to go with that. Here we have the Reset Blessing, the Chaos Trinitas. If you had regular characters, I would probably pick the Space Time Cheese because that gives you one extra Eidolon or constellation to your characters. But our characters are 4-star starter characters, so I didn't really think it was going to be that good. So I just chose the ability to possibly reroll a blessing. Now, if you get the Blessing Reforge and you end up not getting a Remembrance Blessing 3-star, you can always use that option to change out one of your crappy blessings into a good one. So here we end up just picking the one to get rid of a 1 to 2-star, and we chose to get rid of Destruction, and we got rewarded with 2 different choices. And here we're going to go and pick the left card rather than the right one. And in general, I recommend going to the combat paths if you get a choice between like occurrence, transaction, combat, because combat is a guarantee to get blessings as well as cosmic fragments, and you're going to want those cosmic fragments to be able to upgrade your cards at the end. You need 160 for every 3-star card, and you also want cosmic fragments to reroll your blessings. Now this room is the final pit stop room before we fight the boss, and Herta will allow you to enhance as many cards as you'd like based on how many cosmic fragments you have. You can see here 3 stars are 160, 2 stars are 130, and 1 stars are 100. Now there are some curios that can lower that cost down, And so definitely look to take advantage of them if you feel like you have a low amount of fragments. Here we're just upgrading the disassociation related cards as well as the card to refreeze the enemy if disassociation does get removed. So the whole premise of this is that I am able to freeze the enemy right away. And from that, I will be able to apply disassociation from hitting a frozen enemy. And then I can hit them again to remove the disassociation debuff. Then they'll still be frozen, so I can hit them again to reapply it once more. Since I did not get the blessing card that freezes enemies upon entering battle, I have to charge up my Path Resonance skill unless I had March 7th's ultimate to apply a freeze. And now this is where you will see a lot of the damage occur. If you're not familiar with disassociation, pretty much if you do see an enemy that's frozen but they don't have spikes around them, make sure you hit them to apply that buff. Spikes equals disassociation. As you see there, the debuff applied and spikes happened. And you can see here all this damage coming out. This damage is not from our 4-star for level 40 characters. This is from the blessing synergy itself. As I've said previously, this entire run is done on auto battle. I do recommend you manually fight your elite monsters and your boss battles if you don't feel confident. But if you do get really good blessing cards, auto battle should be able to complete it regardless. You'll see here as I hit, I apply the spikes, and he'll be able to hit him again, and it'll remove the spikes and deal a big chunk of Svarog's damage. This Path Resonance skill will kill Svarog, and Phase 3 is the one everyone is always scared about because these hands, when Svarog gives a command, which you will see here, the Oppressive Embrace, he will capture one of your allies, and you can't cleanse or free the ally unless you break the hand. The ally will become freed eventually after the hand does take a turn. But what's really nice about the Path of Remembrance is that if Svarog does get frozen and there are hands on the field with no one imprisoned, Svarog can't give a command to the hand to capture or press one of your units. So definitely try to focus down Svarog as best you can, as long as you can survive without that character that's imprisoned, because these hands are fairly tanky. And if you do kill the boss for at least this fight, the battle will end automatically without you having to kill the side monsters. As you can see here, the AI decides to just target the hands and free our March 7th. But if you end up having the 3-star debuff card and the 2-star card that removes the debuff, you should be able to just primarily focus down Svarog and kill him really quickly as long as you have enough speed. You'll see here, March 7th does end up dying, but that's absolutely okay. With the hands all gone at this point and the Path Resonance skill being active, this should be the end of the fight. Oh wow, as you saw there was over 40% damage dealt with that one hit due to the crit on the Path Resonance skill as well as the disassociation. Here I'm just showing off the characters. We have March 7th level 49, but I do nerf her stats to level 40, you'll see later. And all the other 3 characters level 40. Our light cones are the level 40 light cones that are free to obtain, except for Asta's is gacha, which I didn't know until later. The traces are all 3-3-3-2, and the relics right here are primarily +6, and March 7th is +3, or 3-star at +0 to lower her stats down to what a 4-star with some minorly upgraded relics would be. Here is a showcase of all the blessings we ended up getting. As I said before, the 2 stars that I'm kind of hovering over, as well as the 3-star I hovered earlier, are probably the most important for a run, but you may also want some freeze resistance lowering, as well as some effect chance increased. These are curios. They are moderately helpful, but the most important ones that you can find are going to be the Fortune Glue and the Seal of Remembrance. That's going to be all for this video. Hope you enjoyed it and learned something about Simulated Universe World 4. Please do consider leaving a like and comment down below if you have any other questions for Simulated Universe, as well as Honkai Star Rail. Make sure you join our Discord to be part of our Star Rail community, as well as follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/KLAMPie to be able to watch me play Honkai Star Rail live, as well as get quicker responses for tips and tricks and team recommendations and help. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you all next time. Peace.